We made a video recently where we took a time trial bike that had been used to win both the Giro d'Italia and Tour de France in the same season and put it head-to-head against a road bike.
In that kind of race, a time trial bike would almost always be the clear winner. However, our time trial bike had been the fastest in the world in 1987, whereas our road bike was at the cutting edge of aerodynamics.
The result was that the road bike was significantly faster.
So we promised to come back and do it again, only this time with a more recent time trial bike, one that had a crucial technological development: aero bars.
And the time trial bike we've got is only blooming Greg LeMond's, isn't it?
Yes, our debt to Steve Grimwood, the owner of Elmy Cycles here in the UK, gets deeper by the month. This is another from his collection, and it couldn't be more fitting that it's Greg LeMond's, because he is the man that's credited with introducing aero bars to professional racing. Famously, he used them to devastating effect to win the Tour de France in 1989, snatching victory on the final stage in one of all of sport's greatest upsets.
The difference between LeMond's bike and his chief rival, Laurent Fignon, was this simple concept that we take for granted now, but back then was enough to overcome a 50-second time deficit in a 24-kilometre time trial and win the Tour de France.
But is it faster than my aero bike? A Canyon Aero, undoubtedly one of the speediest out there, used by Mathieu van der Poel to win the odd race, and used by Annemiek van Vleuten to win, well, every race.
To find out which one is fastest, we've returned to our GCN Theatre of Dreams, our time trial course that's been settling age-old debates since the mists of time.
2020 does feel a little bit like that now, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, it's a year from which people can only seemingly remember the global pandemic and me getting dropped in a GCN video. The damage from both, actually, arguably irreparable.
Yeah. Gradually we are recovering from the pandemic, aren't we? But still. Anyway, to settle the score, this is our standard 8.3 kilometre long time trial with just 60 metres of elevation difference throughout the whole route. It's fast, it's flowy, and even at our lowly power outputs, we can still average well over 40k an hour.
Yeah, and speaking of those lowly power outputs, we fitted power meters to both bikes, and the plan is for us not to go absolutely flat out. We're going to ride at a power that is repeatable on both bikes to see which one is the fastest.
Okay, you ready? Benchmark time. We're going to ride our modern aero Superbike.
Cool.
Pretty much, yeah. Shall we? I love doing tests like this. For work today, you need to ride your bike really fast. With pleasure.
Really fast. Whatever. Anyway.
Can you bleep me in?
Yeah. Beep, 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 beep. And he's off.
Wow.
Really fast. That looks really fast. While Si's out on the course, as much as he'd like to disagree, I've got plenty of time to tell you about this incredible machine in more detail, including the tri-bars. So the frame is made by Bellato, a name that many of you won't be familiar with, but in bygone eras was a really big deal. They made steel frames for much of the pro peloton, often badged under different names. This is an example. Two of the biggest icons of the sport rode Bellato frames, Fausto Coppi and Gino Bartali. Like many time trial bikes of the time, the aero bit came courtesy of the very low front end, which is a result of having this smaller wheel, and then you've also got a disc wheel at the back. This kind of geometry, like the Bataille we rode before, is known as a low pro. You've also got these bullhorn bars, which we found last time on the Bataille, aren't very aero by virtue of them being so wide. But what sets this bike apart is its aero bars. LeMond himself had nothing to do with the development of the aero bars, and in fact cyclists were a good 3 years late to the aero bar party. But he was a rider who was willing to give them a try, and the rest is history. So much so that in some parts of the world, these are known as LeMond's.
Oh, Ollie, I think decisively done.
What do you mean he's nearly done? Optimistic. Anyhow, this needs to be continued because the story of how these came into being involves a former US national ski coach and skiing engineer.
And my bike, in contrast, is all about making itself aerodynamic. So the tubes aren't tubes. They're all sculpted to be as aerodynamic as possible and also to work together to help smooth the airflow from the front to the back of the bike. And whilst my handlebars aren't aero bars, they are themselves aerodynamic. So they're an aero profile and they're also pretty narrow. Like, I quite fancy myself is having a decent position on this. And then there's the components as well. I've got Shimano's C60 wheels, super deep, super aero. And then there's also the finishing touches of electronic Dura-Ace Di2 group sets and also even tyre technology. So this whole bike should be faster.
No sign of Si yet. Thought he was going to be really fast. What a load of rubbish. Here he is. Oh, how's that?
Oh, that was good.
Yeah?
Oh, well, what's not to love about having a reason to just press on? Didn't get stuck behind a tractor, didn't get stuck behind horses. It's good. Average 352, not as metronomic as I was after. So there's a few little spikes and stuff, which gonna have to factor in on that one, but that's great. Right, do you wanna go?
Yeah.
You be careful with it, right?
Yeah, I will be, yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah, not a scratch.
if you feel like you're getting a bit sweaty, just like back off or something, so, you know. Beep, 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 beep. How did that take you by surprise? What on earth is he on about saying, don't sweat on it? I'm looking down. There's like a dried on crust, salt crust. He's a swell, he's well sweaty. All right, mate?
Yeah.
How's that?
Oh, this bike's amazing.
It is a good bike, isn't
It's the
it?
first time I've like properly ridden the air road, but oh, it's rapid. I think it's got work cut out for it.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It does.
Whew. Right, it's the moment of truth. It's time to ride Greg LeMond's bike and see if this, or developmental quantum leap as it was back in 1989, is enough to overcome 30 years of road bike innovation.
That's right. I'm not going to lie, Ollie, I'm nervous. Not because of the results, nor because I'm riding a timeless piece of cycling history, but because the owner of said timeless piece of cycling history is standing just over there. Steve, we'll be gentle. Right there. Should you do it?
Yeah. I'm really interested. I think it's going to be close.
I think it will be close. You know what? I did a bit of maths, right?
All right.
Really shonky maths. So, LeMond's beat Fignon by 58 seconds over 26 minutes, right? Our Battalion lost by 30 seconds over 13 minutes. So, by that time trialer's logic, this potentially has the power to overcome that.
Yeah?
It will be close, won't it?
Yeah.
feel like I'm
beeps.
riding a drag racer. Yes,
Right.
please, yeah.
Beep, 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 beep.
Here we go. Oh, that's a big gear. There we go. There's one thing going through my head at the minute, and it's Greg LeMond in 1989. I'm channeling my inner Greg. This position is insane, but it does feel quick. Can we just have a moment to appreciate one of the seismic shifts in performance between 87 and 91 was index gears. I'm having to really fight to hold the power. This position. I feel like I've been stretched on a rack.
You look good.
Yeah? Well, I tell you what, that's cool. So I looked fast, I definitely sounded fast. This disc wheel, it's unreal. It's called disc jet, nothing to do with printers. It's like a jet engine. It sounds incredible. The Wolber disc jet, yeah. And then, but that position is so extreme. I'm really struggling to get the power out. So I sat right on the nose. So it was killing my hip flexors. It was killing my bum. But and if you sit properly, then, I mean, LeMond must have been like a snake. He'd been able to stretch that far. But it's cool.
Well,
it's very cool. Right then, my aero friend. Channel 90s American rock and enjoy the ride. Right. Honestly, you will. Trust me. Okay, all clear. Beep, 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 beep.
Oh, God. Oh, it's a big gear.
It is, I told ya. Down, now, 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 now. So who did invent LeMond's then? Well, the very first time a handlebar extension with armrests was seen was during the race across America in 1984 by a guy called Jim Elliott. But the invention went no further at that point than helping him to finish fourth. However, a couple of years later, the coach of the US national downhill skiing team, a guy called Boone Lennon, who was also a bike racer, rethought up the concept. This time though, he worked on it with a friend, a guy called Charlie French, who just happened to be an engineer at a fledgling skiing company called Scott Sports. The very same Scott that's now prolific in the bike industry. So the pair made their prototypes out of wood, proved their concept, and then moved the idea forward. Patents were filed, and in 1986, French himself used a pair of his aero bars to win the over 60s Ironman World Championships.
The inspiration for these came from downhill skiing, and you can see the position I'm in now is that of a skier, albeit on a bike.
Road cyclists were hard to convince, which doesn't sound like us, does it really? Slow to adopt new technologies. Anyway, it was 3 years later when Boone Lennon himself went to the Tour de France and managed to convince LeMond mid-race to try his new aero bars on the final stage. And the rest is history. Legend has it that Scott sold 100,000 pairs of these the very next year, and Charlie French, who is now 96, is still driving around in a Lamborghini. Hey, Greg.
Oh,
Yeehaw!
oh man.
How was that?
You're not wrong about that saddle and that position. I'll tell you, if I'd not watched your video on sexual health and cycling, I'd be worrying right now that I've been rendered infertile.
Yeah, as it is, you can rest easy.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not.
Did it feel quick? What's the point?
It's a fast bike, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool to ride it. It is so cool to ride it.
Did you have American rock music going through your head at all times, picturing Greg LeMond coming down the Champs-Élysées in 1989?
Yeah. Yeah, Stars and Stripes, all that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. Can I ask you for a wager? What do you reckon? Is it faster?
No.
Really?
Yeah. We'll see.
Okay, right, let's press stop on your old Wahoo, and then we'll wrap things up. We'll find out the results. Okay, Ollie.
Yeah.
What was the time difference for you? Canyon Aeroad versus Greg LeMond's TT bike from 1991.
Well, I did it in 11:45 on the Canyon, and then did it in 12:25
Whoa!
on LeMond's bike. But, slight caveat to that, I was about 5 watts down on LeMond's bike.
Because the position.
I just couldn't get the power out in that position. Like, the perceived rate of exertion was just way, way higher because the hip angle's so extreme. Like my knees were in my chest again on that low pro bike, and I just was dying.
Yeah, I was definitely hitting lunch every time my pedals were at the top of the stroke. Okay, on mine, so 11:38 on the Canyon and 11:55 on LeMond's bike. So not quite as slow as yours in terms of the time difference, but still, I'm surprised it was as far apart as that. Like, I'm not surprised that it was slower, if I'm honest, but I'm surprised that the gap was as big as that. But then I suppose it's not just, when I was riding along on my Canyon, like those bars are 38 centimeters wide, like that's pretty narrow, isn't it? And when you can get your head tucked in, the position's not going to be vastly dissimilar. And then all the advantages, like that aero front wheel, and then the Di2, and the faster tyres, it all adds up, doesn't it?
Yeah, but one caveat in the defence of the LeMond bike has to be that in those days, they trained on those bikes, they trained in those positions, they were used to them. We're used to modern geometry on bikes, which allows for a much more open hip angle. And so consequently, when we switch on something that we're completely not used to, it feels really hard, I think.
Yeah, it feels hard, but my power meter didn't lie. So I reckon, one thing, can I just say that did strike me as I was riding around, is Greg LeMond had never tried those bars before, basically prior to that time trial. And he just rocked up on the final stage of the Tour de France, and he rocked out a win. Hats off, Greg LeMond, firstly for being open-minded, and secondly for being so adaptable. How cool is that? Apparently, according to Steve from Elmy Cycles, the bars were fitted that morning and they had to shim them with Coke cans to stop them slipping on his handlebars. That is cool. Yeah. That is cool. Right, okay, so we still haven't got to the bottom of when a time trial bike is going to be faster than a road bike. So you know what's next?
It's got to be the Lotus, hasn't it?
It's got to be the Lotus. Fingers crossed it happens.
And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the Lotus.
Is that a Lotus over there in the corner of the car park, Ollie?